Interim head coach Darren Rizzi helps the New Orleans Saints breathe new life by simply letting them do what they do best. We got all that and a little bit of lagniappe for you on today's episode of Locked On Saints.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is good, Who Dat Nation and Who Dat family? I am your host, your friend, Ross Jackson, New Orleans native, your New Orleans Saints expert and credentialed member of the media covering those New Orleans Saints as a Saints beat writer over at LouisianaSports.net and Saints analyst with WWL TV. And on today's episode of Locked On Saints, we're taking a look at the changes that the Saints made. I went through, broke down the film, taking a look at some of the things that led to their win over the Atlanta Falcons. We're going to dive into the aggressive identity and how it paid off, taking a look at the defense, which is altogether the same scheme, but just different looks, some things that they did differently on that side that paid off. And we'll take a look at Darren Rizzi being the guy to set the tone, allowing for changes, and just putting his guys in position to cook. That's what we got coming up for you on today's episode. We appreciate you very much for making us your first listen and for being an everydayer here on the show, which is a proud part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by our friends over at PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code in all lowercase LockedOnNFL to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. New Orleans Saints interim head coach Darren Rizzi opened the door, and the New Orleans Saints roster and coaching staff simply walked through it. You can see in this game that it wasn't perfect. It wasn't a full-on, beatdown of the Atlanta Falcons like it was a full-on beatdown of the Carolina Panthers and Dallas Cowboys to open the season. But we saw some improvements from this New Orleans Saints team that go beyond the scoreboard. And a lot of it came down to them simply being put in position to do what it is that they do best. Think about some of the biggest plays in this game. Okay, over on the offensive side, Derek Carr connecting with Marquez Valdes-Scantling downfield, right? So you got Derek Carr connecting with him for 40 yards downfield. You got him connecting with Valdes-Scantling 67 yards downfield off of play action on the 67-yard pass. That's Derek Carr's strength. The deep ball, Marquez Valdes-Scantling straight. Think about Alvin Kamara in space. The New Orleans Saints running over 70% to the outside in this game. That's better than they've done over the course of the past couple of games, with the exception of Carolina. But that was a game that they should have won. You also get the big screen catch and run with blockers out in front. You look at the opening play as well. That could have been a touchdown, but was called back on holding, getting Taysom Hill the ball in space with a full head of steam. You think about over on the defensive side, Tyrann Mathieu makes his biggest play. How? Lurking over the middle of the field and being able to crash down on a route that he saw over and over and over again, giving him an opportunity to sit back as opposed to playing up at the line of scrimmage, having him sit back where he can see things developing out in front of him. You look at Chase Young getting a sack late in the game, getting him on a one-on-one opportunity. Nothing fancy, nothing big, none of these big like stunts, twists, things like that. Just you versus the guy in front of you. Let the secondary take away the first read, buy you time to get to the quarterback. He gets to the quarterback. Cam Jordan gets to the quarterback. Peyton Turner gets to the quarterback. You could see this team simply succeed with some of its biggest names in some of the biggest moments by having them do what it is that they do best. Nobody had to act outside of their identity in this matchup at all. And to me, that's a big nod to what Darren Rizzi has brought back to this team, the opportunity for everybody to reset and to be able to go back to square one and say, what is it that they do best, and then build off of that. Let me give you a couple more examples of how that looks, keeping over on the offensive side, because I'd like to say that I thought that Klint Kubiak called a good game in this one. Some people are going to disagree because the passing game wasn't super active in this one. But if you look at Derek Carr's stat line in this game, it was still an impressive day for the quarterback. He went 16 of 25, so over 60%, 269 yards, no interceptions, was not sacked, and 2 touchdown passes on this game. Now, we got to keep in mind that the Saints just simply don't have the talent at wide receiver that they are used to having with Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed and all that, but they still found a way to be able to take advantage of the players that they had and their strengths. Kevin Austin Jr. coming in and playing in his first NFL game. He's a physical guy. They put him in physical situations. Marquez Valdes-Scantling is a perennial deep threat. They put him in those situations. Those are the things that you're looking for. And then, of course, being able to utilize your tight ends over the middle of the field, Alvin Kamara in the screen game, all that. You would have loved to have seen Derek Carr and Foster Moreau connect on that opening drive after the Taysom Hill touchdown got called back and everything. But even those situations, they were put in positions that they are able to be maximized. And you saw that from Derek Carr in the play calling as well. Derek Carr, I counted 10 different play action passes in this one. He went 7 of 9 on those play action passes for 169 total yards and a passing touchdown, which was a 2-yard touchdown to Marquez Valdes-Scantling. But on top of that, out of those 7 completions that he had in the play action game, 4 of them went for 20 or more yards. 3 of them went for 30 or more yards. This is the identity of the New Orleans Saints offense. Klint Kubiak being able to get back to utilizing play action, which he utilized at a higher percentage in the second half than in the first half, which was inherent because the Saints ran less plays in the second half. They went 3 and out 5 out of their 6 possessions there. So again, not perfect, still a lot to work on. This team is not all of a sudden looking like a playoff team or anything like that, but it is playing better to its identity. The Saints ran 57.7 of their offensive plays with motion. That's the most that I've seen since week 4, according to my charting. And it's the first time that they've gone over 50% since the loss at Kansas City in week 5 on Monday Night Football. So you get the play action passing back, you get the motion back, you're running towards the outside, you're getting players out in space that need to be out in space. Are we trying to say that this team is all of a sudden a Super Bowl team or a playoff team and that they're going to turn it around and they're going to win out? No. But remember what we said going into this game in terms of what our expectations were. The expectations were, do you see this team get back to its identity? Do you see this team go out there, play fast and free? Do you see this team go out there and do what it is that they do best? And you're seeing examples of that after seeing this game against a team that was a better opponent, against a team that is a division rival, and a highly emotional game in that situation, and coming off of a 7-game losing streak. This is what you wanted to see from New Orleans. And I think you saw some good pieces of it, a lot of it led by Darren Rizzi, who allowed and opened up the opportunity for a lot of change to happen. And you saw that on both sides of the football. But I think specifically on the offensive side, you just really got to see Klint Kubiak and Derek Carr kind of get back to what it is that allowed them to cook earlier in the season. They didn't cook the same way here in week 10. There's no doubt about that. That's not going to happen. But I mean, if you're looking for a team that wants to go out there and compete, that can go out there and compete over the course of these last few games, this is a team that looks ready to compete, and that's a good thing. I know a lot of people are worried about draft positioning and stuff like that, but you have to play for the players that are on your team, not the players that might be on your team. No draft pick, no matter how high, is a guaranteed thing. There's no guarantee that they make it through the transition to the NFL. There's no guarantee that they even make it to your roster through training camp, depending upon injuries and all these other things. You can't plan for that. You got to plan and play for what you've got. And for these players, they got to put the best that they can put on tape right now, because they're auditioning not only for the New Orleans Saints next season, but 31 other teams next season potentially as well, those that could potentially be heading to the market. So I think that that's another big reason why you want to see these players put in the best positions to succeed. And I think that Darren Rizzi, Klint Kubiak, and Joe Woods over on the defensive side did that really well throughout this game. Let's jump over to the defensive side next, because look, the scheme is the same, but the New Orleans Saints approach their identity very differently on the defensive side. And a lot of it starts off with what they did completely different over on third down. So let's get to that next as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Saints is brought to you by our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. 5 Hour Energy knows that being a passionate football fan isn't a hobby, it's a way of life. And it takes a lot of energy to power through some of the big losses, but also some of the more exciting things, the all-day tailgates, touchdown celebrations, all of that. That's why they have created the Stay in the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot with a special flavor called Fan Fuel. And I know it's getting a lot of New Orleans Saints fans feeling like they got some fan fuel right now, and it's easily Darren Rizzi. Everything from the energy that he displays on the sideline to the leadership that he's shown. Talking about clogging toilets after the game. I mean, the dude is just a completely different energy than what New Orleans Saints fans have become accustomed to. And what a welcome shift for New Orleans and for you Saints fans. You can see all the energy that Darren Rizzi has. You want to get to that energy as well. 5-hour energy is going to help you get there, especially with their new Stand the Fan 5-hour energy shot, which is here to help keep you fueled throughout the season. So what's your fan fuel this week? Whatever it is, do it with a 5-hour energy. Available at 5hourenergy.com and shipped nationwide. Today's episode of Locked On Saints brought to you by friends over at PrizePicks, the best place to make real money on your favorite sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings. PrizePicks is the best place to go for daily fantasy sports, where you can make your lineups, all these other things. But instead of you going up against mystery lineups, you're simply picking against projections. You pick 2 to 6 players. PrizePicks is going to give you a projection for that player, and all you have to do is choose more or less on at least 2 players, and you can win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game with PrizePicks all season long. That's it. That's all that it takes. So they might give you something like Jamar Chase, more than 79.5 receiving yards. If you had that for Thursday Night Football and you chose more, you walked away with a big win there. Take a look at Patrick Mahomes, more or less than 1.5 passing touchdowns. You can take more or less on those. You do that, and then boom, that's all that it takes. So go and download the app today and use that promo code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. That's $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup at PrizePicks with the code LOCKEDONNFL. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, family. The New Orleans Saints didn't just make some changes on how they approach the game on offense, getting back to what it was that they do best there. They also made some pretty impactful shifts over on defense that actually moved them a little bit away from what they typically do. The scheme was the same, but the identity was definitely different. We appreciate you very much for being here as we break down this game here. I want to start off with third downs over on the defensive side. Typically, when it comes to the New Orleans Saints, what we're used to seeing on third downs is 3 defensive linemen, so 2 ends and a nose tackle, somebody that's a big guy lined up nose to nose with the center effectively. 2 safeties, 1 on either side of the ends, and then 2 linebackers, 1 on either side of the nose tackle. So that creates a 6 or 7 man front on the defensive line. And in doing that, what you're doing is you're kind of threatening. As a safety pass rushing, as a safety dropping back into coverage, as a linebacker pass rushing, as a linebacker dropping back into coverage. The Saints have even dropped some defensive linemen into coverage. They still did that in this game. That is a Joe Woods special, actually, something that they love to do. And so there are still some elements of what it is that they like doing over on the defensive side. But when it came to third downs, the Saints just simply played third downs differently. Instead of lining up 7 on the defensive line, the Saints actually never put 7 on the defensive line on third downs. They actually only blitzed twice on the 14 third downs that counted, some of which got erased by penalty and things like that. That's very out of the ordinary for New Orleans. Usually New Orleans is constantly blitzing on third downs, and they're constantly sending pressure and simulating pressure and all these other things on third downs. The Saints didn't do that. The Saints pass rush plan in this game was very simple. I'll get to that in a sec, but I want to focus on third downs. Let me give you the numbers here. So the Saints defended 14 third downs in this game. They only blitzed twice, and they only had 4 snaps when they were 6 or more at the line of scrimmage. And that includes a red zone third down, of course, where the Saints almost had a goal line saying they forced the 4th down red zone run from the 1-yard line. So, of course, you're going to put 7, 8 on the defensive line in that situation. So that's the one exception there. But still, 4 out of 14 snaps where there were 6 or more on the line of scrimmage. That's very uncharacteristic for New Orleans, who typically brings up to 7 at the line on these third down situations. Additionally, the Saints typically end up playing a lot of man coverage on these third downs as well. And I mentioned in last week's episode that might be changing a little bit, or one of last week's episodes, that might be changing a little bit. I went into more detail with it for the insiders, but third downs, the Saints had struggled quite a bit because of all the crossing routes and things like that when they go into man coverage. It was one of the reasons why the crossers consistently beat them, and teams would effectively just call those crossing routes out on third down to be able to pick up a third down and keep their drive going. Well, the Saints shifted this week. Out of their 14 third downs, 8 were played in zone coverage. That includes cover 2, cover 4, or cover 3, where you have either 2 deep safeties and everybody else is playing underneath zones, 3 deep safeties is cover 3 with underneath zones, 4 deep safeties or 4 deep defensive backs, I should say, would be, cover 4 with some underneath zones. They even threw in a little cover 6 mix where it's cover 4 look on one side with 2 deep defenders, but then it's a cover 2 look on the other side with only 1 deep defender. They did a lot of things that were just kind of out of the ordinary for themselves when it came to third downs in particular, and were successful. The Falcons were only 5 of 14 on third down. The Saints were 5 of 13 on third down, but that's just over 36%. I mean, that's a really good look for New Orleans, and just interesting to see them kind of undergo a little bit of a different, take on a little bit of a different identity when it came to defending those pivotal downs. And they did a pretty good job with it. And a big part of the zone coverage part of it as well was players being in position to make stops at the catch point as opposed to trailing behind receivers. A lot of times when you get into these man looks and stuff like that, you're having to kind of just trail the wide receiver and all that. You're playing from behind a little bit. And in zone, instead, you're kind of staying ahead of that. You're watching stuff that's coming into your zone, giving you an opportunity to pounce on top of those opportunities. That ended up cashing in for New Orleans as well. This was the first time since week 1. Let me say that again. The first time since week 1, we're in week 10, first time since week 1 that the Saints did not allow over 100 yards after catch in a game. 107 last week, 127 before that, 112 before that. Week 6 was the season high at 255 yards after catch allowed against Tampa, 238 in week 5 up against the Kansas City Chiefs. This was a defense, the New Orleans Saints, that was going into this game worst in the NFL when it came to yards after catch allowed over expected. They allowed over 230 plus more than expected or something like that. Just absolutely abysmal in that category. And they come and allow and just surrender only 67 yards after the catch in this game. Pretty good for this New Orleans Saints team. And it wasn't just the passing game. It was the pass rush as well. We saw 3 sacks in this game. Saw a good percentage of pressure for this team as well over on the defensive side of the football. I'll grab that number here in just a sec. But one of the things that they did was that they switched up their pass rush plan altogether when it came to this one. The Saints didn't blitz a lot. Their 12.2% blitz percentage was their lowest of the season so far, and they kind of just focused on a very simple pass rush plan. They made it easy on themselves. They effectively said, you're going to rush. They're going to rush with 4, and they're going to take away the first read. And they're going to try to put Kirk Cousins under pressure by taking away his first read, making him hold on to the football, and challenging the defensive line to get after the quarterback without the simulated pressure. The Saints did that, and they generated the second highest pressure percentage of the NFL's Week 10 games with Monday Night Football still left to be played, but they generated the second highest QB pressure percentage on defense at 48.8%. The only team ahead of them were the Dallas Cowboys at 56.7%. The Atlanta Falcons, by the way, were 23rd. Are currently ranked 23rd at 33.3%. So barely didn't even get 10 pressures, but the Saints racked up 20 pressures in this game, according to Next Gen Stats. That's the second highest, or tied for the second highest total in this week. So even though they didn't simulate a bunch of pressure and send a bunch of blitzes and do all this other stuff, and had one of the lower blitz percentages in the NFL this week, they ended up putting themselves in one of the highest margins when it came to pressure and pressure percentages. So very interesting. It was the marriage between rush and coverage that Joe Woods always talks about. He was able to achieve in this game. They took away the first read, made Kirk Cousins hold on to the football, and then boom, ended up getting pressure on him with their front 4. That's the way that you wanted to see this game go. And then finally in the run game, the Saints made some improvements there as well. And they've been trending in the right direction here over the last couple of weeks on a pivotal stat that we've talked about in run defense, and that is yards before contact. So that is allowing how much pressure, or excuse me, how many yards you allow a running back to get before someone is making contact with them. The Saints registered their fourth lowest yards before contact total in this game at 1.34 yards. It's higher than last week up against Carolina, where they allowed just 0.7 yards before contact, but still much better than previous weeks. 2.71, 4.09 up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, up against Philly, 4.35, their season high. So they were able to bring that number down big time. And we're a little bit more active in making plays, or at least making contact with runners at the line of scrimmage or just beyond the line of scrimmage, as opposed to letting them get 3 or 4 yards before any defender touched them. So good adjustments over on the defensive side. Again, Darren Rizzi opening that door, Joe Woods and the New Orleans Saints defense walking through it. Coming up next, I want to take a look at the aggressive identity that the New Orleans Saints decided to walk into this game with and why it all paid off. We got that coming up for you next as we continue on with today's episode of Locked On Saints, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Saints brought to you by Omaha Steaks. If you're somebody that's getting ready for the holiday season, you want to stock up so you can prepare some really quality. I'm talking unrivaled quality and taste when it comes to these Omaha Steaks. You want to pile on and have that available for you for those holiday dinners, and Omaha Steaks is absolutely the place to go. Or if you're like me, like I'm not a very good gift buyer and everything. And so Omaha Steaks is like a go-to for me in terms of grabbing some gifts for folks that maybe I want to impress, but I don't know super well. Or, what's the gift that you get everybody that's got everything? Meat. That's the way to go. And Omaha Steaks absolutely helps you do that. And right now, you can save 50% on all gourmet gifts site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Get a $30 reward card when you shop early and get an extra 30% off with the promo code NFL. That's just for our listeners. So once again, let me tell you about it. omahasteaks.com. You're going to get $30 off with the promo code LOCKEDONNFL. That's just for you. Then you get a $30 reward card when you shop early. Plus, over at Omaha Steaks, you get 50% off. That's OMAHA steaks.com. And don't forget that extra $30 off with promo code NFL. Minimum purchase may apply. Today's episode of Locked On Saints brought to you by friends over at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, where you can go to tackle all the NFL action. Right now, the New Orleans Saints opening as 2.5-point favorites now at home against the Cleveland Browns. Vegas is buying in on Rismus. I absolutely love to see it. You absolutely love to see it too. If you want to get in on all that, especially as a new customer, now's the time to do it. New customers put $5 down and get $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Then they're going to give you everything you need in terms of in that app. You can get into live betting, live play-by-play, the latest stats, all in the same place where you place your bets as well. You can find all that and more over at FanDuel.com. Join it today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Let's get it, Who Dat Nation. The New Orleans Saints took on an aggressive identity going up against the Atlanta Falcons, and I think it paid off for them in this matchup. The tone was set early when Darren Rizzi allowed the team to go for it on a 4th and 2 on the other side of the 50. He told us after the game that if that was a 4th and 3 or better on the other side of the 50 in that opening drive, they were going for it no matter what. He was very clear with this team and with his coaches, with his staff, with his roster, that they were going to be aggressive going into this game. And I think that the players responded to that sort of level of aggression that was set, right? That expectation, that standard that was set for them. So I wanted to kind of just dive a little bit more into kind of the aggressive nature of what we saw. I broke down a few of the things in yesterday's post-game episode or live episode, but I want to come back to a couple of them. I'm thinking about like the 4th and 2, obviously going for it in that situation. You think about the aggression of the way that they attacked 3rd downs. This wasn't a team that went out there on 3rd and long and decided to just throw a screen pass and see how things go. they instead ended up pushing the ball past the sticks. So Klint Kubiak was given the green light a little bit more and basically was told by Darren Rizzi, like, give me something that's going to get me beyond the sticks. Like, let's go and attack this thing. And I think that level of aggression shows a couple of things. I spoke to some players in the locker room after the game about those decisions. And look, not all of the decisions worked out, right? Like the 4th and 2, they didn't get that. There was another aggressive play call on a 3rd and long that the Saints didn't get. Derek Carr had to throw it away and all these other things. But the point stands that it wasn't necessarily about actually converting those plays. It was the trust that the team felt, that the roster felt in Darren Rizzi being willing to allow them to be aggressive, being willing to allow them to go out there and make plays. And I think you saw 2 wide receivers in particular in this game. Obviously, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, 3 catches, 109 yards, 2 touchdowns, had that Randy Moss type of stat line. But then you also saw Kevin Austin Jr., a guy that's never played in the NFL before, relied on 3rd down, catching a big 3rd and 14 or a big 14-yard catch to convert a 3rd and 10 plus. That was a play to where they decided to attack the sticks. And then that ended up benefiting this team as they move forward. You saw Kevin Austin Jr. with another catch and run at a later point for over 20 yards. He was a 22-yard catch and run, if I remember correctly. A little bit of that going on. You saw, the run game pick up its aggression. You saw the offensive line get aggressive, leading the way on a big catch and run by Alvin Kamara. And then, of course, the aggression on 3rd and 4 at the end of the game to give the ball to Alvin Kamara on the wheel route or the fade route down the left sideline, coming out of that trips bunch over there. But unfortunately, Alvin Kamara dropping the ball, doing what he called, quote, the lamest thing he's ever done in his life in a football game. And look, when he came out, he immediately said, listen, before anybody asks anything, I'm embarrassed that I dropped that pass and all that other stuff. Like, didn't want to put the defense back out there, not because he didn't trust the defense, but because those are your teammates. Don't put it out in their hands when you could have iced it and everything like that. But Alvin Kamara doesn't really deserve any hate for that. It all worked out in the end. And of course, he's the franchise's leader in rushing yards, now. So, he obviously had a remarkably historic day. It would have been a great way to cap off his insane week, though. But anyway, I digress from that. But the play call itself was still aggressive. You saw this team run 5 of its 10 play action passes all in the 3rd quarter. They went away from play action in the 4th quarter because they had a lead. They were trying to protect that lead. And so you just kind of run the football in those situations. But you saw them be very aggressive in those situations. You saw the deep shot to Marquez Valdes-Scantling saying, okay, this is what he does. Go out there and let him do what he does. You saw the other one down the left sideline, right? The 40-yard touchdown, the 67-yard completion. You saw the aggression really come through for this team. And I think a lot of that comes from Darren Rizzi's mentality as a head coach. And look, maybe you're tired of me talking about Darren Rizzi. I don't know. But I do think a lot of this started with him this week, right? Things are going to cool off over the course of the next 7 weeks and stuff like that. They're going to lose some games, yada, yada, and all that. This was a game I picked them to win because the emotions were high with the coaching change. You get the coach bump. Rizzi's got great emotion, charge, intensity, all that stuff. It's exactly what you need going up against a division rival. This made sense. And Atlanta's record against interim coaches is abysmal. And so I think that was a part of it too. And so I think that that's just a part of what you're seeing here. Things are going to cool down as things move forward, but that's okay. I do think a lot of this started with him, though. I mean, this is a guy that described himself as an accountability guy. This is a guy that described himself as a fighter, right? He said, I came up a little bit of a fighter. And then he promised 2 things of this team. He actually promised 3 things, but 2 things in particular he promised were that you were going to see a team that played with passion and that you were going to see a team of fighters. Those were the things that he said that he would promise. He also said that he promised that this would not be a boring team to watch. I think you got that in yesterday's game. I don't think there was a lot boring about this matchup. Blocked field goals, 60-yard plus passes, a big, 30-plus yard catch and run on the and you saw on the screen, 40-yard touchdown pass, all that, interception late in the game, sack, fumble late in the game. Like, you saw all of it there. Even Ugo Amadi's tackle to seal the deal and keeping Ray McLeod in bounds, which I guess I think about it and I'm just like, well, it's like that was 4th down, so it probably didn't matter. But still, the mentality to know I have to keep this player in bounds in an in-game situation, like, it's all there. And so I think that all the intensity that you saw all spawns from that fighter's mentality. Darren Rizzi promised passion. He promised fight. I think you got passion, you got fight, you got effort, and you got fun from this team. And look, they might lose any number of the last 7 games. who cares? Like, that's not really where this team has to be right now. If they can end up playing themselves back into a conversation, I think you do it. Like, just for a pride standpoint, you absolutely do it. But man, when it comes down to these last 7 games, you're just looking for a team that's willing to fight. You're looking for a team that's willing to play. You're looking for a team that comes with effort. You're looking for a team that's coming to compete. And if you're able to do all those things, then I think that you're off to a really good start with whatever the next iteration of this New Orleans Saints team is going to be. You're trying to figure out what the foundation is. You're trying to figure out what your future looks like. You're trying to figure out who your future pieces are and all that. Look at Alontae Taylor. Alontae Taylor did not have a great game, right? 3 different penalties called on him. Was in good position, but gave up the big 33-yard completion to Darnell Mooney. But you know what he did? Played his tail off every single down, despite all that, right? Shamar Jean-Charles gave up 1 completion, and you could see him get visibly frustrated, forgot it, moved on, and went out there and played his heart out for every other down. You could see him and Jordan Howden communicating on the big 2nd and 18 after the sack, or the 2nd and 20, whatever, after the Chase Young sack in that final possession that took away a big route over the middle of the field. Actually, the reason why Kirk Cousins almost got sacked the second time is because he started to uncork one over the middle of the field to Drake London, but you could see Shamar Jean-Charles in a zone communicating to Jordan Howden, who came down and took the route away over the top. And then so Kirk Cousins had to hold on, almost got sacked, ended up checking the ball down for like an 8-yard gain or whatever. That's great. Like, those are the things that you want to see from these players, especially these young pieces, their ability to communicate, their ability to see the game, their ability to act, all that. That's all good stuff. And so you're going to see more ups, more downs throughout the rest of the season. But goodness, if they come in and continue to play with passion, aggression, they continue to fight, and they continue to be fun, be here for it. Be here for it when it comes to this team. All right, coming up in tomorrow's episode, we're going to dive into some more of the analytics. We'll get a little bit deeper into some of the things that we saw from this team. And then we'll dive into taking a look at like where this team heads next. Like, what are you hoping to see up against the Cleveland Browns and the Jameis Winston return to the Superdome? We'll dive into all of that here throughout the rest of the week. We appreciate you very much for making this your first listen. For your second listen, go and check out Locked On NFL. You'll see me over there with Tony Wiggins a little bit later on. We appreciate you very much, as always, for making us a part of your day, part of your routine, for saying yes to me on the show. As always, if you see me, please say hi. If you need anything else around your New Orleans Saints in between these episodes, make sure you follow me on your favorite social media at Ross Jackson, NOLA. Hit me up. Let me know the families, let me know how you're living. Let me know how you're momming them. And trust Who Dat Nation, I'll holla at you.